This lesson is probably one of the most interesting you're going to have this year. It refers to buying, renting, or leasing. And one of the places where this becomes very interesting is when you decide you want to buy a car, especially if you're going to buy a newer car. The question is going to be, what is the best deal? Is it to buy, is it to rent, or to lease? And what do those things mean? Well, to buy, that's pretty obvious. You give money and you own the vehicle. Renting, this is something that, you can go to Home Depot and rent a lawnmower. You give them $20, you get the lawnmower for 2 hours. It's sort of a pay as you go sort of thing. You can rent a car, you see these ads, $49.99 a day, you can rent a car for a day. Leasing is a little bit different. A lease is a contract for purchasing the use of the property. You're not buying the property, you're using it. Okay? And it's usually set up for a specified period. So you might lease a car for 3 years. You own that car for 3 years, so to speak, but then you're returning it when you're done. Okay, another word that you're going to need for today is equity. Equity is the difference between the value of an item and the amount still owing on it. Okay, it's kind of like what part of a vehicle do you own, or what part of the whatever it is do you own? That's the equity part of it. If you own part of a house, you haven't paid it off yet, your equity is what you've paid off already. An asset is an item or a portion of an item that is owned, also known as property. Assets include items such as real estate, investment portfolios, vehicles, arts, gems, anything that's valuable. Let's take a look at some examples. Example 1. Amanda is a civil engineer. She needs a vehicle for work, on average 12 days a month. She is currently renting a vehicle but is considering buying or leasing. Great question here. You're going to decide what's the best strategy to go to in this situation. Now you're going to have to, every situation is different, but we'll look at this one. Okay, so it says she could lease a vehicle, okay, which requires a down payment of $4,000 and lease payments of $380 per month plus tax. She would need insurance at $1,220 a year, which could be paid monthly, and would have to pay for repairs and some maintenance, which would average $50 a month. Okay, very, very normal question. If you're going to buy a new car, you think about putting about $4,000 down. You're $380 a month. That's a pretty reasonable monthly charge. And then the things that you sometimes don't think about, but you have to pay insurance, and $1,220 is definitely not expensive for insurance. And then there's always repairs and maintenance that have to happen to cars, even new ones. And so this person is budgeting $50 a month, which is not very much. That's $600 in a year. That's not a lot for maintenance and repairs. Okay, the other option she has, she could buy a vehicle. So the vehicle is $32,800, and we're assuming it's the same vehicle here. Both of these are the same vehicle. Okay, so the other option is to buy it and to finance it. In other words, obviously she's not going to pay that up front. She's going to make payments per month, and it would pay off that amount. Okay, she would have the same insurance, repair, and maintenance. So those things you have to do no matter whether you lease or buy. Now, if you rent a vehicle, you don't have those costs. You just have the per day. Okay, so which option would you recommend? Well, let's take a look at the three of them. Okay, the first one is leasing. She's going to lease $300 per month, and it says $380 plus tax, and that's per month. Okay, and she's doing this for 4 years. So the cost to lease is going to be $380 times tax. What is tax? 12%. So why am I multiplying by 1.12? Well, if I just multiplied by 1, that wouldn't change. That would just be the $380. But I want the extra 12% tax to be added. So that's like the original plus the tax. Okay? This is going to be $425.60 per month. This is the monthly cost for leasing. So what's the total lease? Okay, total lease is going to be the $4,000 down payment plus this $425 a month $425.60 a month, and for how many months? Times 12 times 4. So 12 months, 4 years. This equals $24,428.80. Okay, now there's a few other costs, right? So that's just the total lease. What other costs did we have? We had insurance. Insurance was $1,220, but we're doing this for 4 years. So this is going to be $4,880. Remember, that's going to be the same whether we buy or lease. And then we're doing some repairs. Now, the strange thing is you might not actually need to spend these, but this is the anticipated. Okay, we're anticipating we need to budget this much, $2,400. So, total. This is the total for 4 years. Is going to be, if we add up this, this, and this, we're going to end up with $31,000, $31,708.80. And then let's figure that out per month. Or what? If we divide by 48 months. Okay, if we do that, we're going to end up with $660.60. That's per month. It's interesting. The lease was only $380, but we added a lot of extra money onto that for that lease. Okay, so that's your lease. Now let's take a look at what it would cost us to buy the vehicle. Now the vehicle is $32,800. That's the present amount, the value of the vehicle right now. And we want to make monthly payments. We're going to go 4 times 12. And we're paying every month like that. Okay, if you read the question, the interest rate is 4.5% and it's compounded monthly. And since we want to buy this vehicle, we want to, in 4 years, pay it off. So the final value is 0. So let's put that in the TVM solver. And that is going to give me a monthly payment of $747.95. Okay? Now, that's not the only cost, right? We also still have the insurance and the maintenance. So let's look at the total again. Okay, so the total is going to be $747.95 times 48 plus still had the insurance and still had the repairs. Okay, and that's going to give you $43,181.81. So again, let's divide that by 48 to figure out the monthly cost, and this is $899.62 per month. So, what's your choice? What do you think's better so far? Well, here's the question. What do we want to do with this? Like, $660 a month is a lot less than $899. But, you own the car here. Whereas with the lease, you give it back. You return car after 4 years. All right, so that's a lot of money to spend without having a car after 4 years. You'd have to start again. Whereas here, you would own the car. Now, some people are going to say, yeah, but I don't want an old car. I want to buy another new car. Well, you're going to have to weigh out what is going to be a better option. Okay? I mean, one of the questions you want to know is, this car that I now own, well, what's it worth? Is it even worth anything? Okay, so these are things you're going to have to figure out as you buy or lease a car. Let's look at the last option, which is to rent. The rent was $49.99, and she said she only had to rent 12 days per month. Okay, so that means since she's only using it 12 days, it's going to cost $599.88 per month. She does not have to buy insurance. She does not have to buy repairs because she's just renting the car. Now, that's the cheapest option, right? The only problem is she doesn't have a car the other days of the month. She's only using it for the 12 work days. The other 28 or 29, sorry, the other 18 or 19 days in a month, you don't have a car. So, again, lots of things to consider about which is the best option. Actually, we do have to do one more thing. It's $599.88. We do have to multiply by that because taxes are included. So it's actually $671.87 a month, which I think is actually a little bit more than leasing. So now it's no longer the best choice at all. It probably, if you're going to use it, that's probably not the option. So I guess we could say leasing is the best option if cost is the most important factor. For now. In the long run, the lease is going to cost you more because you're going to have to repeat it. But buying is best if you are looking long term. All right. The reality is most cars after 4 years are still very, very functional. If you just want transportation that is safe and reliable, that's probably the best bet. Now, there are some people who always want new cars, leasing might work better for them. There's also other people who can write off the cost of the car, and so the more expensive the car is, the greater their write-off. Now you need to be careful with that. When I say write-off, it's not like you don't have to pay for that. It just means you can say you've made less income tax. So you've made less income, so your tax will be less. These are all things you're going to consider in the long run. Don't worry about that for this question. Okay, let's talk about appreciation and depreciation. Appreciation means the value of something is growing. Depreciation means it's going down. Typically, not always, but typically car values depreciate and real estate values appreciate. So the cost of your house seems to go up, but your car, as you use it, becomes worth less and less. Okay, let's take a look at a depreciation question. A luxury vehicle rental company depreciates the value of its vehicles each year over 5 years. At the end of the 5th year, the company writes off the vehicle for scrap. The company uses a depreciation rate of 40% per year. What is the scrap value of each car below? Okay, so let's look at car A. So car A has a value of $43,200 and it depreciates 40%. Okay, if it depreciates 40%, that means 60% is still left. So if we multiply by 0.6, this gives us 25,920. So this means after the 3rd year, the car is now worth $25,920. So let's repeat that. Let's go 0.6 again. And now the car is worth $15,552. That's after the 4th year. And if we do this again, we'll find out what the value is after the 5th year. And this company is saying this is scrap. So the 5th year, this is the scrap value. Okay. Now, let's try B. So B is new. So it's here we depreciated 3 times to get it to the 5th year. With the car that's 1 year old, we're going to depreciate 4 times. So we could do this 4 times, or I could just do this all in one step. Multiply by 0.6, multiply by 0.6, multiply by 0.6. In other words, I'm multiplying by 0.6 4 times. That's what that means. 0.6 to the power of 4 means 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6 times 0.6. So this is a little bit quicker. We can do it in one step. And this car is worth $9,797.76 for scrap value. Okay. So that's part A. Part B says, what was the original purchase price of each car? Okay, so let's look at the first one. We have this value. This is the value of the car that is 2 years old. This means it's depreciated twice already from new. Okay, so if we would have had the original price, we would have multiplied by 0.6 twice. Well, what's the opposite of multiplying by 0.6? Dividing by 0.6. So I'm going to write opposite of multiply. In other words, opposite of depreciating. So it's like we're now trying to figure out how to appreciate. And why 2? Because it's going from 2 years back to new. Okay, and if we do that, put that in the calculator, you end up with 120,000. Okay, let's do B. So B, the value of the car is 75,600. What do we want to divide by? 0.6, but only once. Okay, what is the value of this car? 126,000. Just in case any of you had trouble putting that in the calculator, let's try this. Okay, so I want to put in, let's do the previous one, it's a little bit trickier. Okay, let's go 43,200 divided by 0.6. And how do you do to the power of? Like that. Power of 2. Now why don't I need brackets there? Well, if you do remember the order of operations, you're going to do the power before you divide. So that's how we do that question. All right. Next, let's talk about disposable income a little bit. Example 3. So, disposable income doesn't necessarily mean we're trying to throw it in the garbage. Okay, it's just the amount of income that someone has available to spend on whatever. So if you make money and you have certain things you need to buy food, you need to pay for your, wherever you're staying. There are certain expenses you have to have. When you're finished with that, you have some money. Hopefully, you have some money. And it's called disposable. I can go and choose to buy a new TV, a new phone, or I can choose to put it in the bank to save, maybe for a trip, maybe for whatever. It's common sense to save for the what ifs. What if something goes wrong? What if this breaks down? What if I need a new fridge? All these kinds of things. So disposable income is maybe one place where you're going to come up with that money. So here's a question. A 10-year-old hot water tank heater in Tom's house stopped working, so he needs a new one. Okay, common question here. So we have a little bit of a disaster. Something happens. We need to replace it. How do we deal with this? So Tom works for minimum wage. After paying his monthly expenses, he has $35 disposable income left. So in other words, $35 that is not accounted for each month. He has an unused credit card that charges 18.7% compounded daily. So he has two options to buy a new hot water tank. Tom could lease one from his utility company. Okay, remember what lease means? It means it's the right to use it, but I won't own it. And this includes parts and service. That's kind of neat. So that's the only price, only cost. The other one is he could buy the hot water tank, have it installed, and put it on his credit card and then pay off the credit card. Which is the better strategy? Okay. Well, looks like we're looking at buying first. Okay. It says I want to, what is this present value? It's $712.99 plus the installation of $250. Okay, the best Tom can do is $35 a month. He just doesn't have any more disposable income. So he wants to pay this off. He's going to make monthly payments. All right, and his credit card says that it is 18.7% compounded daily. How many payments is he going to have to make? Well, if we put that into the calculator, I think it's 36.3, which means what? I have to make 37 payments. Okay, now I'm making 37 payments of $35. Okay, so how do I figure out what my total cost is? Well, you may think that's easy. I have 37 payments of $35, and if I do that, I get $12.95. But that's not entirely true, because my 37 payments, it's really only 36 payments and then 0.3 of a payment. So to kind of straighten this out, what I'm going to do is, let's find out how much interest I've paid during this time. And if I do that, I get $307.83. So that tells me how much interest I've paid to finish paying this off. Okay, so now I can figure out my total cost. I know that I paid $712.99. I know I paid $250, and I know I paid $307.83. So my total cost is $1,270.82. This way, I'm not figuring out the full 37 payments, I'm just figuring out what it actually costs me to buy the hot water tank. Okay, now, that's a lot of interest, but, you know, you own the hot water tank. It's yours now. You just paid it off. It took you 37 months, which is just over 3 years, but now the hot water tank is yours. Okay, let's look at the leasing option. The leasing says it's $17.25, and you're going to make 37 payments. Why 37 payments? Well, we're trying to figure out which is the better option for us. So for the first 37 months, if I were buying it, it would cost me $35 a month. If I did the same thing for leasing, it turns out that I would pay $638.25. So after 37 months, it looks like leasing is a great option. It's much, much, much cheaper. Okay, so what is my recommendation? Well, what would you choose? The question is, how long are you staying in the house, right? So we could say for the first 37 months, leasing is much cheaper. You know, if I decide I want to move right now, it's a no-brainer. I should just lease. It costs me way less. Okay? The question is, how long are you staying? Are you staying in this house for 10 years, 20 years? Because you have this hot water tank, and the hot water tank's going to last for hopefully longer than just 37 months. Okay? So the question you have to ask yourself is, if you are staying longer, buying becomes a better option. All right, well, so part B says, what do you recommend and justify it? We kind of did that, but let's look at C. Suppose the life expectancy of a water heater is 8 years. In other words, that's how long it's going to last. Well, let's take a look at what would it cost us for 8 years. So if we buy, what was our cost to buy? It was, we paid $1,270.82. Now, that pays off the hot water tank after 37 months, but we've paid it off. We're going to get it for 8 years. So buy $1,270, this lasts you 8 years. Okay, let's look at what happens if we lease it now. So if we lease at $1,725, and we have to go for 8 years. 8 years times 12 months. This turns out to be $1,656. Okay? If Tom stays in the house for 8 years, buying is a better option. Okay, so that's something you have to consider, how long you're staying in the house, because that will make a difference. Okay? Alright, I'm going to stop there. And I'll make a second video because this one's already been pretty long. You can start on some of the homework and see if some of these questions are doable for you. You might have to wait till I'm finished the rest of this lesson. Okay, so there's the homework so far.